Well, welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank Podcast. I'm here with Mr. Keith Carter.
Hello, how are you, man?
Are you a coach like Coach Carter?
I can be. I've coached a few things before.
Can you coach me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm Keith. I guess probably most recently, what I do is I have a podcast. That's the reason I think you invited me on the show, is because you saw my podcast, the Unemployed Bartender podcast with Keith Carter. Started up about 4 weeks ago, so getting it ramped up and rolling, but having a really good time doing it.
What exactly is the podcast about? So, are you a bartender or are you interviewing bartenders?
So yeah, I've been bartending, I guess, for about 13 years now. In New York City, I've been here about 2.5 years. Head bartender, beverage beverage director. I've worked in ambassador fields, all kinds of different things in the bartending world. And when COVID-19 hit, obviously, a lot of people went unemployed, but people that are still unemployed are a lot of bartenders, including me. So I decided to do something to kind of still get to talk to people, because that's my favorite part about bartending, is the conversations that I get to have with my regulars every day, talking about all kinds of crazy shit. So, can I cuss on this podcast?
Yeah, of
Mine's
course,
an
of course.
explicit podcast.
I'm surprised you did it before I did. Usually I break that barrier in like the first minute, but that's interesting because I always bring up the fact, like I've had a few bartenders on here and it's funny talking to them because I always ask this question, which I want to ask you is, what is like the most interesting thing you've ever heard from a guest? Because I mean, like you said, it's all about the stories too. Like, I mean, you're practically somebody's therapist. I mean, they get half into a bottle. Next thing you know, they're telling you about like they buried their third cousin behind a house after a microwave fight over a taquito. It's like, oh my God, it's like you're divulging so much information.
God, the craziest thing I've ever heard from somebody, I've heard so many things from so many people. I can tell you about one of the craziest situations that ever happened. I was at a place called Vintage 61 down in South Street Seaport in Financial District in Manhattan. And these two girls kind of wandered in off the street, sat down, and were clearly hammered. So I didn't serve them anything. They ordered a drink, and I gave them some water. They started talking for a little bit, and then about 10 seconds into them showing up at the place, the girl reaches over, one of the girls reaches over, slaps the water I was about to hand her out of my hand, and just starts yelling and screaming at me about what I don't know. Tries to attack me, breaks my phone. Then she gets pulled off, and then the two girls, apparently her sisters, they start fighting each other on the street in front of the bar, bare knuckle brawl, like literally like slamming each other into the concrete. It was the most insane thing I ever. They were there for like 10 seconds, and then they're just like, "Hey, let's cause a shit ton of trouble."
That's literally like the first thing. Like I worked at a casino for a brief time and we had to do our training. I was a security guard there and we had to do like multiple trainings for our shifts, different hours. I worked like the morning shift. So it was like I never had to worry about anybody getting drunk at 4 o'clock in the morning unless you really had a problem. But like, I mean, technically, if you're getting drunk at 4 o'clock in the morning, you could still be there from that night if the bar didn't shut
Yeah,
down.
I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas. If anyone's listened to my podcast, they'd hear me say that many times. But uh, you're allowed to have bars open until 5 a.m. if you have the right license. So most of my life was spent going out until 5 a.m.
Well,
Uh,
the training we had to do for it, which was like you're supposed to monitor guests, and if you see a guest that kind of is like over the intoxicated, it's about cutting them off and things like that. And even though I'm not the bartender, we still had to go through that training to know if somebody was going to be a problem. Obviously, you're in a public casino and everything, so I'm doing the training, and it's like make sure nobody's underage, and it's like I get that because I'm pretty good at telling if somebody's young or old, or pretty good at guessing. And you start looking at all these situations where they start kind of showing you in the videos about, be careful if someone's doing this, be careful what type of alcohol they're drinking, be able to know that. I'm like, as a bartender, it really comes down to a science. Not only are you entertaining the person that you're serving, but at the same time, you got to make sure you're not getting somebody so hammered to where a fight can, because I mean, when it comes down to alcohol, it happens so fucking quick. And man, I think the craziest thing I really ever saw, I guess, was like on my first week like, I think it was like the last day of the week, not Sunday, but like the last day of the week I worked. So it was like, this would have been my seventh day. Two guys won like $50,000 at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, holy, like, this is awesome. Like, this is the first time I really ever saw somebody win like a giant sum of money. And the guy's like drunk. And I'm like, what are you going to do? He's like, whew, man, I'm going to go get a steak. I'm like, dude, don't get a steak. Get a McGriddle, because McDonald's was still open. And the guy was like, not Denny's? I was like, no, man, get a McGriddle. And he goes, I'll bring you back one. I'm like, how are you going to get there? He's like, I'm going to drive. I'm like, maybe you should Uber. He goes, I'm not spending my money on an Uber. I'm like, you just won a shit ton of money. Like, go
Yeah.
take an Uber.
I mean, a guy that's gonna buy a McGriddle after winning $50,000 is probably the same guy that's not gonna take an Uber to get there.
He's living the Bill Gates lifestyle, which is like, don't spend anything above $5, even though you have billions.
Yeah, I mean, it worked for Bill.
What do you consider, I guess, would be a tip or a trick that you like to do to get money out of like a tip or something?
To get money out of a tip, I just try to be, as interesting, uh, as accessible, and as informational as possible to all my guests. I feel like if you give them that nice, well-rounded experience, then they're going to tip you. Uh, they're going to tip you a lot.
Do you try and
Usually.
like, ask them about a lot of the personal stuff going on? Because I feel like a lot of the time it starts off, people don't want to divulge into the personal, don't want to talk about like their day. And then once they get kind of into the bottle, they're like, okay, I'm here to, I want someone to talk to.
Well, my goal for every single customer that walks in the door is to try to create a regular, someone that wants to come back to my bar because I'm there, to see me because of the conversations and experiences that they had the last time they were there. And then that's ultimately how that's how a bartender really makes money. Someone that does well and is successful as a bartender has perfected the art of creating regulars.
Have you ever, I guess, created a drink where you really messed up? Because I feel like if you're trying to create like because I mean these drink combinations, I would say, get insane. I mean, if you look at like some of them, it's like it's basically like a Starbucks order. Like, this isn't even an alcoholic beverage. This is a freaking milkshake. Like, we're Chick-fil-A and we're serving up something. Like, you're doing a mudslide where it's like half a thing of Ben and Jerry's ice cream, chocolate chips, all this. You're like, is that even alcohol? I don't know.
Well, I think just in terms of all these fun and different cocktails that are out right now, it's about, as bartenders, we love to create things. It's the other part of the job when you're not talking to people is creating a delicious beverage for someone to imbibe. And as you get to know and you have more regulars and more people that have a lot of different interests, you start creating all these different things that might seem over the top or elaborate. But, I have customers that have, back in the day, I made a drink that was a pumpkin pie martini, and it tastes just like a pumpkin pie. It's creamy and rich. I make a pumpkin pie syrup, all
Does
the
that
same,
does that
top
come
it with
out?
whipped cream, and
Does that
it's delicious.
does that come out in September before October hits? Because by the time October hits, you don't want anything to do with pumpkin.
Yeah, the pumpkin spice comes out the same time as the PSL.
Well, like, even when like, you have to have a pretty good patience too. So even when you're dealing with customers too, like when they get rowdy, like, how do you try and diffuse the situation? Have you had to diffuse anything pretty big besides the girl, that incident?
Yeah, I mean, if you have control of your bar, like a good bartender controls the room that they're in, and you can see that before it happens. A good bartender is not going to let a fight. I mean, things happen sometimes, and you can't get control of your whole space. But for the most part, if you're monitoring your guests and you know their limits and you understand the room and who you're dealing with, then you can prevent things like that from ever happening.
I feel like I could handle a small crowd of like a few people, like, because I mean, I do shakes at my work, which is like, I work at a gym, so we do like, people order like a protein shake off the menu or something. I could do like when it's one person waiting in line, but then once it's like 15 people all wanting different shakes and stuff, we have one blender, so you have to wash that real quick, make sure it's clean, and you have to go and reach for all the different supplements to throw in this crazy combination. Everybody wants a fucking peanut butter slammer, and I'm like, my hands smell like peanut butter all day. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm falling asleep with my hand near my face and I'm sniffing in peanut butter. And after like the first couple of days, like, I get it, it's nice. But then, smelling like peanut butter all day, people think like, what do you have it stuck on the back of your neck or something? But when we go into the overwhelming part about being a bartender, like if you're one guy and there's like 50 million people up there all yelling at you, shouting at you orders and different things, like how do you sift through that? Like to me, it's like Superman, where he's a kid and he's getting all of his powers, and he's like, his mom's like, swim through the sea, focus on one thing, focus on one thing.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the experience you've had in dealing with a lot of customers. I wish everyone had some sort of customer service experience where they could buying for your attention at the exact same time, all wanting the same thing, and there's only one of you and one, you know, whatever. You only have
I
two.
got 2 arms and a dick. I don't have 9 arms. I can't help you.
Yeah, and I can only do what I do. But yeah, if it's all about having like I said, knowing your bar, having an understanding of the situation. The more regulars you create, the more time you buy with them. So your regulars understand, they're there every day, they know what you're going through. If a good regular is going to be like, get the new person, I'm good, I can wait. So you got to balance that with making sure that they're happy. But you also just you got to be able to see as people walk up, okay, that person walked up at the side of your eye, so I need to get to them in the next 10 seconds and at least touch the table, say, hey, what's up, give me just 2 seconds, I'll be right back. Do that with multiple people, and then just make sure you're constantly working around. And if you've got those kind of uh, I don't know, abilities to organize and multitask, then I think bartending's the job for you. But
Have you
if you don't,
tried like a lot of bartenders out there to kind of keep up with, COVID shutting everything down? I mean, do you see this? Do you see it picking up at all? Do you think that it's going to end up opening up to where we can go back to the bar scenario? I mean, I saw so many bars in my hometown. We're a beach town, so this is like prime spot for drinking, tourist attraction. I mean, we're right at the beach, and all these bars, they tried their best to do like an inflatable tube you had to like kind of wear around you, which kept literally 6 feet apart from each other. But then eventually they were like, we just have to shut down because it ended up turning into people snitching or calling into the cops saying, hey, these people aren't following regulations. And it's like, you're getting a place packed. I mean, it's going to be hard, especially when some of these buildings, I mean, they're all jam packed right beside each other. They're not open like a New York street or, popular city. This is like a small beach town of Ocean City, Maryland. So everything is fit on one little island. So the buildings are right slam up beside each other. So like most of the spot, like 6 feet is really hard to get that distance.
yeah, I mean, now you're just in the conversation of should places even be allowed to be open if because of these complications that you're talking about. Yeah, you can't get 6 feet apart. No, it doesn't really make sense to have people standing and sitting at bars trying to do things. And this is a reason why many of us are unemployed right now, because those things don't make sense in most places right now. It's just
Yeah,
not safe.
I'm fighting for it though because I think like it's needed too. Because I mean, for anybody that likes storytelling, anybody that likes getting into a conversation with people like social butterflies, they really love the bartending thing. And my cousin was a bartender, so it was hard to see him. I mean, he was making most of his money, and then he immediately went to being broke, living off unemployment and stuff. And he's like, it sucks. And a lot of times people want to go there because they want someone to talk to. I see it when I'm at the front desk or something. Next thing I know, someone comes up and they start explaining to me like their whole life story. And I'm like, bro, I just was trying to give you your change. And you realize it's because we're not talking. We're not having that conversation.
Yeah, I think the first 2 or 3 times I went out after that initial, because here in New York we got hit bad, so we were on super lockdown. So it was about 2 months until I was really like out and like talking to anybody at all. The first time I talked, I overshared so much of my life with the first 2 or 3 people I saw. 'Cause I was like, oh, fuck, I'm so sorry. I forgot how to talk to people, and I hadn't had anyone to tell anything to. So, sorry, but yeah, it's it was hard for people. Oh, excuse me. It's hard for people when you lose that ability to communicate with people daily, to remember how to talk and stuff.
Yeah, it's like a muscle. Like people talk about like lifting weights or something, or stretching out your brain. That's literally what conversation is. If you don't have it every day, if you isolate yourself so hard, sometimes you go up and you're like, "Hi, hello, what's your name? Okay, have a nice day." It's like, Wait a minute, hold on. You just missed like the part of the conversation where you tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. No, that's the reason I started my podcast. Is I needed to be able to talk to people again. I needed some back and forth and some other thoughts and opinions instead of the ones bouncing around in my head.
So, what are you typically okay? If you're interviewing people, what are you typically asking them question wise? Are they what is the main focus bartenders? Is it not anybody else?
Yeah. So for my show, I try to make it a balance of uh, kind of focusing on my regulars and my fellow bartenders. So I open with a an interesting guest, typically someone that's been a regular or a patron of mine at my bar that's done, really fun, cool things. I've had a couple musicians on so far. Lead singer of Shinobi Ninja, a really big group out of New York City, was my most recent guest this week. And then at the end of every show, I have a guest bartender on that I just talk bartending with. He shares a recipe or she shares a recipe with us for the listeners to make at home if they'd like. And then we kind of shoot the shit about bar stuff and then we close the show out. But yeah, it's kind of a balance of both. I get a guest and we get a bartender.
Okay. Now, if you had to, I guess, suggest a drink for me, if I'm not too much of a drinker, if I, peanut butter screwball whiskey. I don't know if you ever had that, but I
Fireball, is that what you said?
fuck Fireball. I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about my bad experience with that one, but I drank a whole one of the giant bottles by myself, and I was sipping it the whole time and sending Snapchats to my buddy. And then by the time I think I sent my third one, I don't remember any of them after that. And he was like, dude, you were sending me the drunkest Snapchats. I was like, what? And I freaking went to the bathroom. Next thing I know, it all hit me at once, and I knocked myself out while taking a piss. So I will remember that, and I'll remember Forbidden Kingdom with Jackie Chan because I was watching that the whole entire time. I was killing that bottle, and it all hit me, dude. I swear to you, I sweated nothing but cinnamon that if somebody makes French toast in my house, I will puke.
Well, I love cinnamon, so but you definitely don't want to have my pumpkin spice martini then because it's got cinnamon hopped all over it. But yeah, for you, if you're so you like sweet drinks,
I want it
for
to
me,
not taste like alcohol.
you want it to not taste like alcohol. So what kind of flavors do you like? What are your favorite kinds of flavors?
Anything but cinnamon. I like tropical stuff. I like a dessert nice tasting. I mean, I got a mudslide one time where I was like, this is just like you tossed a bag of chocolate chips in here and let me go ham on it.
All right, I'd probably make you like a fresh, real pina colada using cream of coconut, like real actual coconut cream, real pineapples, fresh pineapples. Um, I think that'd be something you'd probably really enjoy.
I mean, that's whenever I made a Slurpee, it was always the pina colada mixed with like a little bit of Coke in there.
See, there you go.
Plus that one song, Do You Like Pina Coladas?
Yeah, and getting caught in the rain.
Now, when it comes to like creation ideas, do you ever just go experimental on it? Like I look at like, we have a list obviously of shakes I can make at my gym, but I'm just sitting there like, man, if I did this together, I got this. And like next thing you know, they started serving something with like I had a woman come up to me who's in her 70s and she asked for a raging bull. Now, what a raging bull is, and I think the main reason why I like creating them is because the names you can just toss whatever works, and it sounds like a Sharknado. If like, hey, what's two things that we can make a movie on? Sharks, and someone says tornadoes. You're like, all right, throw it together, Sharknado. But the Raging Bull is a can of Red Bull, orange pineapple juice, scoop of protein powder, and some amino acids. And I'm like, this is death on your stomach. And that's from talking from someone that kills 6 20-ounce Red Bulls a day, like for breakfast. And I gave it to this 70-year-old woman, and she started deadlifting. And I was like, all right, well, apparently I don't know anything about the way the world works.
Yeah, sounds like you need to get on a raging bull then.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I mean, I've done the cocktail menus for multiple different bars over the last multiple years, I guess. So yeah, it part of my job responsibility is creating drink and what's going on the menu and figuring out which ingredients are going to go best together and create a nice, well balanced drink and a nice, well balanced menu. So,
Okay. Well, you got to give me a drink idea here. Come on now.
Oh, a new drink. Let's see. I'll tell you about a drink I made um, a couple years ago at the New York Cocktail Expo. It's a, a little competition, I suppose, where bartenders from across the city get together and submit their best cocktail idea and are judged upon it. But for that one, I had my sponsor for the event was Wheeler's Gin out of New Mexico, a wonderful local desert gin. All of the botanicals for the gin are within 5 miles, 5 to 10 miles, or something like that of the distillery. So it's just really delicious gin. Since the gin was from New Mexico, I also used hatch green chilies, which are the most prominent food staple item from New Mexico. If you're ever there, most everything is going to have green chilies in it. So I wanted to kind of do something to tie that together. Uh, Roasted the green chilies and created a syrup out of it, and a simple syrup. So it's kind of a sweet and spicy. That, the gin, a little bit of pineapple juice, some fresh basil. Shake that up together. You got the New Mexico gin.
I like that, dude. That makes me think. Are you using the ingredients based on where they're from? I like trying to pair them together with things that are local to that area. Like
Well,
if
for
you,
that particular drink, I did just because I wanted to name it the New Mexico gin
yeah.
by having multiple things from New Mexico. It helped make that possible, and it being a gin, obviously, informed the name. But yeah, I don't do that always. That just seemed like the most original idea for that particular concept. But yeah, I try to, like I said, it's all about creating a balance on the menu for people. You know, you want to have something for people that want just a nice light drink before they, uh, before they have dinner, an aperitif. Or you might want someone that likes to, people that like whiskey cocktails. You want to have a couple different options. There's ones like Negronis and Boulevardiers. Those are common things you're going to see on menus now. Um, but you want to have a rum drink and a tequila drink, and a nice balanced menu is going to attract the most customers and give
Bartending.
everybody something.
Yeah, bartending is kind of like a trading job, like HVAC or something, because you constantly have to learn to keep up with all the new things that are going on, from daiquiris, whiskeys, all these other types of recipes that come out. You have to kind of stay on top of your game, and it must get hard to memorize it all.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's the classics that are never going to change, that have been around forever and will always be around. Um, I think in this, it's a little easier in this day and age, in the advent of like mixology, and people really taking, instead of kind of relying on other people's recipes to do things. What you see now is people taking ownership of their own ideas and creating new and exciting things. And this is what makes it important. This is what was so wonderful about all of the different cocktail bars and restaurants and bars here in New York City, is that uh, you had a different experience at different places that you went. You weren't, it wasn't going to be the same drink in every place because that's the new hot drink. It's like, no, this place has this drink because this bartender created it, and that's why I go there.
Plus, like the atmosphere too. Like for me, I like if I'm gonna go to a bar, I want like a classic scenario with like a pool table that's lined up in it. Nothing too fancy. You go to a lot of places nowadays, they're trying their best to be like a tip top, like 5-star, like hotel restaurant type thing. It's like you walk in, there's freaking glass everywhere. It's like the chairs made of glass. I'm like, I don't want glass in my ass. Like I always loved there's a bar called Fishtails. It's one of the ones with the tubes I was talking about. But what they do is they confiscate fake IDs and they laminate them to the bar stools. And one night when I was there, my brother was bouncing, and you just hear this dad who gets up and he's like, "Hold on a second, that's my fucking daughter." And then he looks, and he was sitting on his daughter's fake ID the whole entire time. And he's like trying to grab the stool, and they're like, "No, no, no, put that down. That's ours. That's her fault. You can't do that. You can't take that with you." He was so upset. But I'm like, it's a place like that, like it's right next to the marina. So you're looking at boats, but at the same time, there's picnic tables. There's all these types of things where it's really just a hangout, not like I have to wear a $20, not $20, $20,000 tux. I can wear like $20 board shorts.
You can wear a $20 tux to the place you're talking about.
I'm gonna just rip though.
But that's actually on episode 3 of the Unemployed Bartender podcast. You can hear me and buddy Ty Miller discuss this very thing, where yeah, cocktail bars have their place, but dive bars are where it's at for me. That's where you're going to find me sitting at a bar drinking a local IPA and having a shot of JMO. They're necessary, and it's a safe haven where you can go, and you're right. You can always order the same thing. I can walk in any bar and get a shot of JMO, and they're going to know what I'm talking about. They're going to have it ready and available, and it's going to be delicious.
What really caught my attention to your podcast was the concept of it, because you could have went in a completely different direction when it comes to interviewing local brewers. Um, my buddy, Young Cheddar is his name, his artist name, but his name's Tyler. He does this thing where he's trying to start this podcast where he interviews craft brewers. And I know so many people that interview craft brewers to get the idea out there, because I mean, it is intimidating when it comes to the industry of alcohol. I mean, obviously you're going to see all the main corporate Corona, Natural Light, all these other types of giant things that kind of seem to be everywhere. But it's like the local guys have the stories. And, you could even turn yours into a YouTube channel like Tipsy Bartender that shows you how to
Oh yeah.
create craft drinks at home.
Yeah, YouTube channel is coming very soon with a lot of content that's going to be really exciting. It'll all be out by episode 5. But yeah, we definitely have some really, really big ideas and plans that are going to happen with the Unemployed Bartender, including what you're referring to, talking to breweries, distilleries. I've got a segment called Farm to Tumbler, where I talk to local from the farm to the local distillery to the bar to the restaurant, where we kind of follow that wheat, barley, fruit, whatever, wherever it's coming from, all the way to your glass. So that's something exciting coming up. So, but yeah, you're right. There's tons of great stories out there at the local level where people are pouring their heart and dreams into the glass.
I'll have to literally hook you up with my buddy. His name is Joan. It's a really, really long, but he's from Portugal. He's got a really long, sophisticated name, but shout out to him. But he's a bartender out there. And I started talking to him when COVID was like just in another country, wasn't even in the States yet. Like it was kind of just being talked about, whispered, I would say. And he's talking about how everything's been shutting down and all these things. And he was talking about a lot of these, places and the stories of bartenders and all these things, and about experiencing the people, the culture there. I mean, they can drink at the age of like 15 there. So it's a completely different scenario to hear. He's like, yeah, he goes, I don't serve anybody unless they're above the age of 15. I'm like, hold on, 15? What do you mean 15? It's 21 in the States. And it was a completely different shift. He'd be a great guest for you. And then, I mean,
Yeah, send it my way.
I got
Send
a,
them all my way.
hey, I got a few people I'll hook you up with. But when it
All
comes
right.
up to, the idea of the podcast. Now, when it comes to asking people these questions and stuff, what is the worst drunk you've ever had? Like, what's the worst drunk experience? Like, come on, I just told you I knocked myself out while taking a piss. You got to have one of
For,
those in there.
for me, my worst drunk experience.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember any of my worst drunk experiences. I can tell you, I've definitely experienced them far too often, though.
Have you ever had
Uh,
one that you remember where it's like it might steer you away from something? Like, I can't have French toast because of one
oh,
experience.
no, I don't have any like olfactory uh, turnoffs from alcohol, but I definitely, won't. I don't know, step 2 steps off a step walking out of a bodega, so that so that I fall and smash my knee into the ground. But I'll try not to do that again.
Have you ever come across like a bar brawl, for instance? Like I saw when we like I mentioned fishtails, when my brother was working there, he was bouncing, but he was constantly getting letters in the mail of summonses to court, because I mean obviously you can sue anybody for anything. Well, they would say was too aggressive, but one time I saw a 45-year-old man slap a 22-year-old girl in the face. And I think because she spit on him or something. Even that's not right. But at the same time, you don't slap somebody like that. But he was drunk, stumbling across the street. And I just see my brother charge across the parking lot, and he jumps. And he knows Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But he jumps on the guy's back because the dude's a big oaf. And he goes to put him in a seatbelt. And the dude's so drunk, he collapses as soon as my brother jumps on him. And my brother bangs his head up against concrete. Next thing I know, I see my brother lied up by a trash can. And these two people in the street, I'm like, oh, my God.
So your brother knocked himself out.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
He's like, I whooped my ass.
He's like, I whipped that guy's ass and my own. I'm like, no, he passed out. You knocked yourself out.
Well, I mean, at least you got a story out of it. That's what life's really about.
Exactly. You should be coming at me with stories right now. Where are the stories?
I don't know. Let's see. I'm a lover, not a fighter, man. I avoid the fights. Never been in one in my life. Mostly because I don't need to. I'm a big guy, and I think people just don't want to fight big people
But I mean,
usually.
you've had to come across something, dude.
I mean, I've seen fights. I was a bouncer in my first like security whatever door guy at this sports bar called West End in Little Rock like 15 years ago. Um, and I had to throw people out every now and then. There was one guy that uh, yeah, I literally had to bear hug him and drag him out of the building and put him outside. So I guess I've stopped some bar fights before, but I've definitely seen plenty, especially here in New York. Oh, you know what?
That's what I'm hitting at. Is I want to give me some of the
You
experiences, the
know what?
stuff you've
I got a
seen.
story for you.
Oh,
I just remembered happened on my birthday. My first year here in New York, 2 years ago. I uh, I had to work that night, and didn't have tons of new friends here, but I had a couple of buddies that came down and met me at my bar when I was getting off work, and we were going to stop at the Iron Horse in Fidei off of Fulton on the way home. So because it was my birthday, I wanted to go out and have a drink or something. I'm there. I'm wearing a backpack because I just got off work. I walk into the bar and order a shot of JMO and a IPA. I don't remember which one I had, but and this guy, this really really drunk guy, big guy too, huge guy, like 320, 6'3", 320. Like starts lumbering over to me and he's like, "Take your backpack off." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Your backpack, take it off. Make yourself at home." Not, I'm good, man. I just got off work. I'm just gonna, I'm good. I'm cool. He's like, "No, take it off, make yourself at home. It's no, sit down." And he starts trying to pull my backpack off of me. I'm like, "Bro, like, stop touching me," and like, it's cool. It's, he doesn't do anything for a little bit, and I'm talking to a friend, and the next thing I know, he's like on my shoulder. His head is like rested on the back of my neck on my shoulder. And I'm like, "Bro, like, get off of me." And then all of a sudden he just changes and he's like, he hates me. And he's like, I just killed his mother or something.
it
And
flips so
yeah,
fast.
and he was like, "Fuck you," blah 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 blah. And I'm like, "All right," I'm walking away. So I go outside and I'm sitting outside. There's three other cats I meet out there. We're all talking, having a good time. This dude walks out and sees me. He's like drunk, like hammered, standing in the middle of the street, turns around, sees me, points at me, and he's like, "Oh, there you are." And then he comes over and starts trying to like fight me, but he's like not moving very fast. Uh, and my buddy's there, smaller but really physically stout man. He's a man, and he like steps up in front of him because he knows he's gonna protect me. It's my birthday. I'm not trying to fight. And he pushes this guy away. He's like, "Bro, you need to go." And he keeps pushing him, pushes him again, and the guy trips over himself and falls into like sewer trash, like street trash and water that's like collected on the thing. So then the guy comes and tries to charge at me. My buddy form tackles him in the side. Now they're both rolling around in the trash, getting shit all over them. The guy's finally like, "All right, it looks like he's gonna be done." He's laying on the streets. He gets up, he takes his shoe off, he charges towards me and starts beating me in the head with his shoe.
Why is it always the shoe that's gonna come off?
Meanwhile, at this point, he was lying in the middle of the street right before this. The cops showed up. The cops are right behind us, lights on, car. He's on the street. I'm standing there, whatever. I see the cops. He gets up, starts charging at me in front of the cops. So I'm just standing there. I'm like, I don't want them to think that I'm involved in this fight in any way possible. So I'm just
I got my
literally standing.
backpack on. I got my
Yeah,
backpack on.
I'm standing there and letting this guy beat me in the face with a shoe so that the cops
What
realize
is
that
that? A
I'm
size
not
13?
part of this thing. But he breaks my glasses that I just got 3 days before. I just bought new glasses. Breaks my glasses. The cops extort money for my glasses from him to give to me. Gives me $140. They're like, "How much are your glasses cost?" I was like, "Wait, we're $200." And he's like, "Give him $200 for his glasses." And I was like, "What?" he was drunk and couldn't really know what he was talking about, and he just pulls his wallet out and hands it to the cops, and the cops pulled him out. There was 140 bucks in there. So he gives me the 140 bucks, and he's like, "All right, let's go to the ATM, get 60 more dollars. You're gonna give it to
No
him."
fucking way.
And then he was like, the guy was like, he couldn't walk at this point, and they're like, I'm like, you know what? It's not. I don't need it. It's fine. It's whatever. I'm not pressing charges. I just want to go home. And it's my birthday, so I'm trying to get out of here. And so they're about to let the guy go. Then he takes his other shoe off. He's standing between the two cars, the two cops, takes his other shoe off, and he throws it at me. Hits me in the face in front of the cops. So the cops arrested him for that. So he went to jail. I don't know whatever happened to the guy, but he that's my New York bar fight story for you, buddy.
I don't have like a good, I guess, drinking or bartender story, but I have one where there's a place called Wawa. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, only recently have I heard of Wawa because I saw one on a very recent travel trip.
Okay, I work at like 2 o'clock in the morning till like around noon. So like I basically have the whole rest of the day ahead of me. But when I go into work in the morning, I like to stop at Wawa and grab like a drink, and then before I open up and everything. And you always come across a drunk person every single time. So state troopers just sit out there. And I remember one night I had my cousin with me. I was gonna drop him off. He wanted to go to the beach and see the sunrise in the morning. So I was like, all right, man. Well, I'm gonna stop at Wawa. Let me get a drink. So he runs in, I run in, I grab my drink, I'm out in the car, I'm waiting for him. And usually like I unlock usually the door locks. So I have to sit there and unlock it for somebody to, hop in. So I'm like, before he gets there, hits the handle and sits there looking at me like, unlock it, jackass. I'm going to unlock the car and keep it unlocked. So he rolls up. Well, before I could even think, I'm sitting there waiting for him. I see him paying for his stuff. A freaking door opens up. I look over, it's just some drunk woman getting in my car. She gets like, I mean, not like open up, oh, sorry, more like open it up, get in the car, sit down, slam the door, start yelling at me to go somewhere like I'm Uber. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? But like, I looked over, I was like, oh shit, the car door is unlocked. She is in the car. I was so shocked. I was like, I just woke up. I'm not ready for this. Started yelling at her, get the fuck out of my car. My cousin rolls up, opens up the door. I'm like, get the fuck out of my car. He goes, what did I do? I'm like, there's a chick in my back seat. He goes, where did she come from? I'm like, why are you asking questions? Help. And like that happened. I mean, I think that's happened once or twice. I remember I've gotten into the wrong car sober before. More like I open up the door, I hop in, I look over, I'm like, you're not my friend, and I get out. But this chick, I mean, you're the worst Uber I've ever had. And I'm like, I'm not your fucking Uber.
I'm sure that person appreciated you opening the car door just to let them know that they weren't your friend.
Yo,
Just want to let you know you're not my friend.
I went from 0 to 60 real quick. I looked there, I was like, oh shit, she had the door. Like she went, I mean, full on. I couldn't even tell her, like, hey, wrong car, wrong car. And our friends were yelling at her, come over here, you're gonna get us in trouble. And I'm like, dude, I get it. It's like Bill Burr's joke. Drinking and driving, you feel like you're a celebrity. People are grabbing onto your shirt trying to stop you. But so many kids down here do that. I mean, Taco Bell stays open and the cops just sit there waiting for you to come by through the drive-through. I'm like, it's a fucking big thing down here.
Yeah, I mean that's everywhere. Every Taco Bell everywhere has cops sitting outside waiting for the dumb drunk kids to pull in and get their ring the bell or whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, literally, it's the factor of like drinking is a powerful thing. I think, we both can understand that. You being a bartender, me, like I've
Yeah,
just been, in a bar influenced town, but like I get why it works. Like the fact of like people why they go out drinking. It's a fun experience. That's what it's meant to be. And I think like you heard about bars shutting down and then alcohol places stayed open because people needed, alcohol and everything. That's like because it does create a fun time, but a lot of the time you're just like trying to release the stress of the day, and that does help. I mean, it's definitely a social lubricant. I don't think it should be used 100% all the time if you're really, down in the dumps. But, dude, bar experiences, like even if I'm not drinking, I'm just at the bar with my cousin. He's drinking and he's talking. I meet and get into some interesting conversations that I still remember to this day.
yeah. I mean anything that allows you to kind of just relax and get out of your own head uh, is definitely helpful in building relationships and communication and things like that. So, I mean, it definitely works like that. Just like being comfortable it, with someone that also does. So it's yeah. I would never tell people that they should definitely drink. But if they want to drink, then I'll definitely make them one.
What would you say is probably the biggest benefit you've learned from being a bartender? Like, obviously, this wasn't like your choice as a kid. Like, how did you even decide to get into the whole bartending thing?
I mean, I've always loved making drinks. My mom would show me how to make drinks when I was a kid. And we'd always have one with her on Christmas or Thanksgiving. One of the big holidays. She'd let us have a little bit of something. But yeah, so I mean, I always like to. I love to entertain, and I love to make things. And there's nothing that really combines those two things as well as bartending.
What would you consider probably the best maybe drink? So, like your favorite, I would say, like one of the things you would, if somebody's come up, what do you want? What do you like? You'd be like, bam, this one.
Uh, Local IPA and a shot of Jameson.
Local IPA and a shot of Jameson. Why the shot?
That's just what I drink. That's what I like. I enjoy it. I like the way it tastes inside my mouth. Uh,
That's what she said. I had to on that one. I'm like I said, I'm not a big drinker, but like when that came to like me trying a screwball whiskey for the first time, it's just like that's something with some flavor to it. Like I know so many people down here just get natty bows because they just want to get messed up natural lights. I'm like, I want something that actually tastes good. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of stuff out there. Like I get it, it gets you drunk and everything. And if you're on a budget, that works. But at the same time, I don't want to sit there and literally kill my insides. At least I'm fine doing it without noticing. But when it comes to actually tasting something and making my breath tastes like ass water, I'm like, I'm good.
yeah, I think that just comes down to like just getting and trying and experiencing as many different kinds. Just like if you were trying to grow your palate culinarily, you would get out and try, more and different and interesting types of food. As you do that more, you discover that you have, taste buds that you weren't that didn't know that were there, and you're going to find things that you actually do enjoy. Maybe even things that taste specifically like alcohol because that's what you are actually trying to taste. So I think that just comes from like the more different things that you try uh, in the spirit world, the the better off the better you'll be able to actually determine what that drink is for you, what's your go-to guy, your daily driver, as I like to say.
Now, do you reach out to anybody on Instagram that are beer makers or craft brewers or maybe even local bartenders to get them on the podcast? Because you're doing it through Zoom, I'm guessing, or not Zoom, but through a different platform like we were mentioning earlier, only
Yeah,
because of COVID, right? Like, do you try and do them in person? I feel like it's more intimate in person.
yeah. The goal, the long-term goal is obviously just I've established this because I want to have a platform to invite people to that's established. But when we're able to, I definitely will be having people in studio, which I'm very much looking forward to. So
And I actually came across yours because I think you were doing a sponsorship on Facebook.
yeah.
Uh, don't do those. That is the one thing I recommend to people. I did it, and the weird thing is, if you don't take your credit card off, like and pay for the stuff, they'll keep charging if it's left on there. I started realizing that they were like,
Oh yeah, yeah. You can't. I mean, you gotta just do. I think it worked for me because it got me on your show right now. So
yeah, I did it for 2 days,
yeah.
and then the thing, like after it was over and I paid for it, next month I had a $35 charge. I was like, for what? They're like, oh, we'll keep charging because anybody, like I think a week or two after those 2 days, if you get a follow, they chalk it up to theirs. I'm like, hang on, motherfucker, that
Yeah,
those are mine. They're like, you can't prove that. I was like, oh, we're playing this game. I'm gonna take a whiskey bottle to your head in a minute.
but you can set a limit that doesn't allow it to charge any more than X. You know, in the future if you want to do it through there.
I had that limit.
I use Facebook for specific things. Like I said, we're really working to develop a multifaceted, um, more of a media group type situation with a video, a blog. Uh, you're, I've got a lot of merch that's going to be coming out soon. A bunch of different educational and informational videos about bartending. Just a lot of cool stuff. But we're using Facebook more as a, I don't know if you're familiar with like Tipsy Bartender or Angry Bartender, where they kind of focus. Angry Bartender focuses on the different gripes that we all have bartending. It's for our Facebook page, it's going to be, more dealing with the things that we're dealing with as unemployed bartenders, and kind of going in that vein. So, if that's something you're interested in, follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all the things at the UB Podcast. You can find us there. And if you want to follow me, I'm at Keith A. Carter. So just want to get all those out there
Shameless plug.
while I'm talking about it.
Well, I mean, are you looking at traveling a little bit to maybe try and find different recipes and stuff too, or do you ever expand your horizons on that aspect
I
of
mean,
it?
I've traveled. I don't know if you mean out of the country or not. I mean, I've traveled all over the United States, and experienced a multitude of different cuisines, and
Have a beer from every state.
that's definitely a plan. That's why I drink. Like I said, I just drink a local IPA of wherever I'm at. That allows me to try the flavors and styles of the local peoples, and that's what I prefer.
Be immense into the culture. I like it.
Yeah.
You
It's the only way you're
definitely.
going to find out. If you want to, it's my hack for when we can travel again and back before when we could. If you want to learn how to ingratiate yourself to a city, find the bar that you like, find your home bar, find the bartender that you like, and then ask them all the questions. They're going to be able to tell you all the secrets to the city, and they're going to know all the keys and all the people that you're going to need to meet to get where you're trying to go.
Exactly the best spots to eat,
Yep.
and hopefully they don't play any drunk tricks on you like they used to do at the Fishtails place I was remembering, is the fact they used to throw quarters on the ground and watch the drunk people try and pick them up. And if you know drunk people, when they bend down is easy, but trying to get back up is the hard part.
Yeah. Now, a good bartender, like I said, is going to care for and nurture their bar
Because you're not
guests.
only trying to save a person's life, you're also liable for whatever happens to them too.
Yeah. Yeah. But also, I care about them as friends. Anyone that sits at my bar is a friend of mine.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And thank you so much for being on the podcast. Now is the time you get to promote your show there, Keith.
All right. Well, I'm going to just carry on from what I just said. Then it's the Unemployed Bartender podcast. I'm Keith Carter. I am the host. You can follow me at Keith A. Carter on Instagram and at Keith Carter 1981 on Twitter. And the Unemployed Bartender is at the UB Podcast and www.theubpodcast.com. We're on everything, just like every other podcast is, because that's how podcasts work. Yeah.
You have to be 21 and older.
No, you can be however old you want.
Oh my goodness. This isn't Portugal. This isn't how we do alcohol.
You pick it.
Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode Out of the Blank podcast, and stay tuned for our next episode.